The night train slid through the American Midwest like a quiet confession, its windows reflecting towns that seemed to appear only to disappear, grain silos standing like watchful monks. Diners glowing amber in the dark, water towers painted with names that felt older than memory. Somewhere between Chicago and the plains. A man in the last car looked out and wondered how a country so loud on television could feel so hushed in real life. He had crossed oceans to understand America, but what he was beginning to realize was that America did not explain itself easily. It revealed itself slowly, in fragments, in contradictions. The truth did not arrive as a headline. It arrived like the sun announced, patient, demanding attention from those willing to stay awake. Long before highways cut the land into straight lines, before steel and concrete made monuments of speed, the continent breathed in long rhythms. Rivers wrote the earliest histories, winding and persistent, shaping settlements the way a careful scribe shapes letters. The people who lived here knew the seasons as law. They knew that power did not shout, it waited. When European ships arrived like ironclad prophecies, they brought maps that were confident and wrong. The first America was not empty. It was full of nations, languages, trade routes, and stories older than the crowns that would claim dominion. Yet the new arrivals carried a different story, one sharpened by hunger and faith, by the belief that destiny could be owned. This belief would become a central engine of the country. The conviction that tomorrow belonged to those bold enough to seize it, regardless of the cost. Colonies grew like rough-hewn fortresses along the coast, their wooden walls sheltering people who were equal parts desperate and determined. They spoke of freedom while building systems that denied it too many. They fled kings while creating hierarchies that mirrored the old world. The contradiction was not accidental, it was foundational. America learned early to live with opposing truths, to argue with itself and call the noise progress. In the taverns and meeting halls, ideas fermented liberty, representation, rights words that would one day inspire revolutions across oceans. But for every stirring speech, there was a quiet laborer whose hands made the dream possible without ever sharing it. When the revolution came, it did not arrive as a single, unified cry. It arrived as a series of choices made by farmers, merchants, enslaved people, indigenous allies, and reluctant soldiers. Victory, when it came, tasted of hope and uncertainty. A new nation stood blinking in the light, unsure whether it was a fragile experiment or an inevitable power. The Constitution, elegant and cautious, attempted to bind ambition with restraint. It was a promise written in ink that assumed virtue would keep its balance. The ink dried, but the argument did not. It never would. Expansion followed like a fever. Roads pushed westward, then rails, then telegraph lines that stitched the continent together with copper threads. Towns rose overnight and vanished just as quickly, leaving behind foundations like ghosts. Opportunity became a religion. It promised that effort would be rewarded, that the horizon was an invitation. But the horizon, once reached, kept moving. For some, the journey meant land and wealth. For others, it meant displacement, broken treaties, and survival measured in fragments. America told itself a story of bravery and conquest, and it was not entirely false. It was simply incomplete. In the cotton fields and sugar plantations, another America worked in chains. Its labor financed mansions and universities, ports and banks. Its songs carried grief and endurance across generations. Enslaved people understood the nation in a way few others did. They knew its ideals and its betrayals intimately. When emancipation finally came, it arrived with fanfare and fear, liberation and backlash intertwined. Freedom was declared, but equality was deferred. Reconstruction tried to mend a torn fabric, while forces determined to preserve old hierarchies sharpened new tools. The result was a country that promised justice in principle and practiced compromise in reality. Cities became crucibles. Waves of immigrants arrived with names that would be changed, languages that would be softened, traditions that would be folded into something new. Tenements overflowed, factories roared, children worked where dreams were supposed to play. Yet within this chaos, something extraordinary happened. Cultures collided and collaborated. Food, music, and faith braided together. America learned to remake itself by absorbing the unfamiliar, even as it argued about who truly belonged. Belonging became a question with no final answer, only evolving ones. The 20th century announced itself with engines and electricity. America discovered speed and fell in love with it. Assembly lines turned time into profit. Advertising taught desire to speak in slogans. The nation flexed its muscles abroad, learning that power could be projected and resisted. Wars arrived like storms, first distant, then personal. Soldiers returned with medals and memories they could not share. Women stepped into roles that had been denied them, then were told to step back. The pattern repeated. Progress surged forward, then met resistance, then surged again. The Great Depression stripped the shine from the dream. Breadlines stretched across streets once busy with confidence. Banks closed, farms failed. Yet in the wreckage, new ideas took root. Government became a shield as well as a referee. Infrastructure rose from the dust bridges, dams, roads testaments to collective effort. The country learned briefly that survival could be shared. When the world caught fire again, America became an arsenal and a refuge, a place where innovation and sacrifice accelerated each other. Victory brought prosperity, but it also brought complacency. Suburbs spread like carefully planned orchards. Televisions glowed in living rooms, broadcasting a version of America that was tidy and reassuring. But outside the frame, other realities persisted. Segregation hardened lines that laws had not erased. Veterans struggled. Cities hollowed out as jobs moved or vanished. The Cold War taught fear to wear a polite smile beneath the surface. Movements gathered strength. They were led by people who refused to accept the script as written. The civil rights era did not begin with speeches. It began with daily indignities that accumulated until patience broke. It began with courage that did not wait for permission. When it erupted, it did so with clarity and cost. Dogs and fire hoses met hymns and resolve. The nation watched itself on television and could not look away. Laws changed. Hearts changed more slowly. Yet the arc bent, nudged by hands that would not let go. Vietnam complicated the story further. Trust frayed. Protest became patriotic. The idea that America was always right cracked under the weight of images and body counts. Journalism sharpened its teeth. Skepticism entered the mainstream. This was not decline, it was maturation, though it felt like loss. The country learned that questioning authority was not betrayal, but maintenance. Technology accelerated everything. Silicon Valley transformed garages into gateways. Information became currency. The economy shifted, leaving some communities behind while lifting others into new wealth. Globalization expanded choices and anxiety. The promise of meritocracy glowed brighter even as inequality deepened its roots. America talked about winners and losers as if the race were fair, ignoring the starting lines. On September mornings that should have been ordinary, the illusion of invulnerability shattered. Smoke rose where confidence had stood. Grief united strangers briefly. Fear rewrote policies. Security became a language spoken in airports and inboxes. Wars followed, complex and costly. The country wrestled with how to protect itself without losing itself. There were no simple answers, only trade-offs measured in lives and liberties. Through it all, ordinary people continued their quiet work. Teachers opened classrooms. Nurses held hands. Farmers watched skies. Artists turned confusion into form. Activists organized. Entrepreneurs failed and tried again. The real America lived in these repetitions, not in slogans. It lived in the resilience that did not trend, in the compromises that did not fit into soundbites. The rural town where the train stopped at dawn had one main street and a history museum no larger than a living room. Inside, photographs told stories without commentary. A high school football team from the 1950s, a factory ribbon cutting, a protest march, a flood that rearranged the river. A volunteer unlocked the door and smiled at visitors, as if welcoming them into a shared memory. This was America 2, not the loudest version, but the most durable. In the deserts and along the coasts, in reservations and campuses, in churches and community centers, debates continued. Who gets to tell the story? Who benefits? Who waits? America's genius, if it can be called that, is not perfection, but persistence. The country survives by arguing with itself and refusing to quit. Its failures are public. Its corrections are uneven. Its ideals remain aspirational, like stars used for navigation rather than destinations. The immigrant who had watched the night roll by stepped onto the platform and breathed in air that smelled of rain and diesel. He thought of the medieval paintings he loved, the ones where history unfolded without frames, where figures moved through landscapes heavy with symbolism. America felt like that tan, unfinished panel, colors layered over time, perspective flattened by proximity. But kings and peasants shared the same space. Glory and grief stood side by side. The story was not ornamental, it was worked by hand. To understand the real USA was to accept its refusal to be summarized. It was a country built by people who believed in beginnings, even when endings were painful. It was a place where the past insisted on being acknowledged and the future demanded imagination. The truth was not singular. It was shared, contested, revised. One story, one truth, only if the story was allowed to be large enough to hold them all. As the sun climbed, the town woke. A cafe opened. A school bus groaned into motion. Somewhere, a meeting would be held. A song would be written. A small kindness would change a day. This was the America that rarely made the screen the patient, contradictory, human one. It did not ask to be admired. It asked to be understood. And for those willing to look beyond the glare, it offered something rarer than certainty, an honest invitation to keep listening.